We talk about our first impressions of the all-new BMW 3 Series that we just bought for our test fleet, give advice to people who are thinking about buying a Tesla in light of the recent announcements, and explain what triggers a safety recall. Next on Talking Cars. Hi everybody, welcome to another episode. I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm John Lincove.
And I'm Jake Fisher.
So we're happy to be back with you guys out there watching, listening. We've got a lot of things to discuss today. I'm here with my two favorite co-hosts, Jake and John. It's the Jake and John Show.
Yes.
Okay, nothing. So we're going to get right to some news. And in this case, we're going to talk about Tesla, which isn't that uncommon for Tesla to be in the news. This is a company that from the beginning has always done things a little differently. But over the last few weeks, we've seen a lot more announcements from Tesla than usual. So I'm just going to run down a few of these announcements. First, they said they were going to lower prices on their cars. Then they said they were going to move from a dealer model to more of an online-only model, and that they would be closing many retail locations. But then it wasn't long after that, they said, actually, no, we're not going to close as many of the locations as we originally said. They also announced that the long-awaited $35,000 Model 3 was finally available. They changed some of the packaging related to Autopilot and the full self-driving option. And then they said that they would be forced to raise prices across the board, other than on the base Model 3, to help make up for the fact that they weren't going to be able to do as much online-only selling as they originally thought. And of course, the all-new Model Y SUV is going to be coming out somewhere down the road here. So John, I'm going to start with you. In light of all this commotion at Tesla, what's your advice to consumers right now who are maybe considering buying a Tesla?
I think the super fans, they're not going to care. But people coming into it, understand the limitations. One thing is understand the buying process. Tesla fans may hold on to their car. Tesla owners may hold on to it a long time. But you have a vehicle that they constantly change.
Right.
If your version doesn't have some of those features, or maybe it's incapable of having those features updated, your version may depreciate a little quicker than other ones. On the secondary market. Understand the tax credit situation. They don't get the full tax credit anymore, $7,500 federal tax credit. It's $3,750 through June because they've sold so many.
Cars.
Exactly,
right. Okay.
Exactly. On the true cost, you touched on it. Autopilot doesn't come on the $35,000 version. It's a couple $1,000s more, and then you said I'll say semi-full autonomous.
They call it full self-driving.
Yeah, the advanced driver assist systems, let's just call it that. They're not on there. They're like a $5,000 option.
And colors don't come on $35,000.
The Henry Ford model, you get black as long as that's the only color.
Right, you want red, that's over $1,000 more.
Understand that because again, there's a lot of people drawn in because $35,000 Tesla. Yeah, it's not exactly what it sounded like.
Jake, what do you make of these sort of tumultuous times at Tesla right now?
Well, I mean, John's exactly right. I mean, our job here is kind of lay out all the facts, and there's a lot of facts here, and it's could be confusing at times. Right. I mean, even the facts that comes from us when we talk about the owners and what they're telling us about these cars, that they do have more than their fair share of problems. However, they're pretty happy with them too. And I think what you really have to get into is, why do you want this car? What is the purpose? And this rapidly changing things, in some ways is a problem of the vehicle. It's also kind of the attraction of the vehicle. So, you go out and you buy a Honda and the car doesn't change at all for 3 years, then it has a mild freshening or something. You get this car and it's constantly moving. And I think to a lot of people, that is the attraction. If you want to go and you want to get the latest and the greatest and you want to, be on that cutting edge of technology, this might be the car for you. If you're looking, say you got an old Prius that, has never broken down for 150,000 miles, and now you're looking to get another energy efficient vehicle, maybe not. Maybe this isn't the choice for you if you're not going to be excited about all the things that this car does, the handling and the drives like a sports car and all these different things and that cutting edge technology. So I think it really is about, the demographic. Figure out who you are. Are you that person who Are you the one who wants to download the latest, operating system for your phone, even when the bugs are in it, just so you can have the latest? Well, then this is going to be a great car for you.
Are you vanilla ice cream or are you peanut butter chocolate?
But
some people want to have something special, and some people want it just to be calm and plain.
I loves me some chocolate peanut butter, but there's actually a lot of people out there who say vanilla, if it's the right kind of vanilla, it can have a fantastic flavor. I personally don't agree with that, but but you mentioned on something, you touched on something, which is Tesla can do these over-the-air updates, which more manufacturers will start doing, or maybe even are starting to do with some things, maybe infotainment systems more than anything. Tesla was able to do it with their braking system on the Model 3. We documented that. And so, there have been some reliability issues with Teslas over the years. But because they can update the cars, potentially they can fix some of those things, and potentially they can cause maybe even some problems. We got a video question actually related to this. And so let's play that video clip from Ravi about the Model 3.
Hello, Talking Cars. Could you go into a bit more detail on how you rated the Model 3 with regards to reliability? As you know, the Model 3 manufacturing process is continually undergoing refinement and improvement. A lot of the complaints that were quoted in articles have long since been addressed and are no longer a concern. Do you plan to change your ratings in the future as to how you conduct them? If your intent is to inform the public on which cars to buy depending on what is important to them, it's really a disservice to the public by telling them that Tesla as a company is less reliable than the other cars you've listed.
All right, Jake, so I'm going to throw this to you first. You saw the video question.
Sure.
Are we being unfair in the way we, do our reliability survey data of Tesla because they update their cars more than other manufacturers?
Well, what's interesting is that, in this question, it's a very smart question, and it's really right on the money in terms of what's going on in Tesla. But in a way, there's something that's very typical here, and there's something atypical. What's typical is virtually, well, I wouldn't say every, but many auto manufacturers, when we cite the problems with the vehicles, the auto manufacturers are like, well, we fixed all those problems.
Right.
Well, and you know what? They don't necessarily always fix those problems. They may say they fix those problems, but only time will tell. We will update our reliability information later on this year. We will see. So if Tesla has, in fact, fixed those problems, the reliability results will change. Other manufacturers also tell us, and spoiler alert, sometimes they don't actually fix them. They try to fix them, which is great. It's good to try, but we really need to have the data to see that. But the other part is this car is a moving target. Yes, and it's not just the over-the-air downloads. It is hardware on the car. Right. And when we tested our Tesla Model 3, we talked to. Well, I had a conversation with Elon Musk, and I talked about the rear seat comfort, and I talked about the ride, and I talked about the noise, and he was able to say, well, in January we made this change, and we made this change. Oh, we changed the seats in this month, and we changed the glass in this month. I mean, it is unbelievable how quick they make these changes. Right. And there's a pro and a con to that.
Right. They're making their changes on the assembly line. But that doesn't help the people who, with that kind of hardware, that doesn't help the people who already have that car.
Well, exactly. It's interesting you say assembly line. I mean, there was a thing, and actually, the plant that they build in, we used to be a Toyota plant, and Toyota was known for this continuous improvement, right? I mean, all companies talk about this now, but this really came from kind of the Toyota assembly line. And that used to be like, okay, as we assemble the car, we will continually improve how we assemble the car. Tesla has taken this to the next level and has taken this to the product. So they're continually improving this car, good and bad. Good, yes, you don't have to wait for the next generation or whatever to get that better seat.
Well, an interesting thing here is that, Ravi it sort of sounds like he's saying he thinks that suddenly the Model 3 reliability is perfect. They fixed everything on the car. Right. But from our reliability data, from our CR members, we know that cars like the Model S and the Model X that have been out for years now still have some reliability issues.
Yeah, I mean, the Model S has been up and down. They have a limited implementation of air suspension, for example, and then when it went full line, they had problems with that. The Model X, they've not been able to address some of the problems. The doors have been, one major sticking point, for example. It's interesting. It's good and bad. I think the toughest thing is for owners or people who have it, buy as a used car.
Right.
Because you're just not getting the fixes. You just happen to you got a week 4 car, and in a week 5 they fixed it.
Right.
and just
Right.
some of those things. But it happens with mainstream cars as
It
well.
absolutely
They make a
does.
running change. And
Well, yeah, and with any auto manufacturer, if they're going to fix one problem, they might change something else and create another problem. You never really know until actually the car's out in the field. And with Tesla, it's really just kind of like the curse and the benefits of being an early adopter. If you want to be an early adopter, you get the newest stuff, but you know what? You're not assured that you got that track history.
Yeah, and it's cool that they can do this, that they can do the the over-the-air updates and make changes to the car. But it can be confusing for buyers, who especially buyers of the used vehicles who don't really know which one they got. Okay, well we're going to move on to the next segment, which is This Week at the Track. And this week at the track, we're going to talk about the 2019 BMW 3 Series, which has been completely redesigned. And we bought a 2019 BMW 330 xDrive. So we're going to talk a little bit about our first impressions of this car. And, for people who really enjoy driving, the BMW 3 Series has long been one of those go-to cars. And John, the last generation, the steering wasn't quite as good as previous BMW 3 Series had been.
did you read my notes?
I did read your notes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I just copied them right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then mid-cycle, they improved the handling and the steering a little bit. And now, now we have an all-new 3 Series again. And I know you're someone who's had German sports sedans over the years. You like a tight driving car. What'd you think of this one so far?
I mean, look, the 3 Series is the benchmark, if you will, particularly for many enthusiasts. Look back. I mean, I remember the 325 from the 80s.
That's what's written down in your notes.
Blaine from Pretty in Pink, 325i. Like that era, old man era. The 3 Series is like just the epitome of it, the E30 code. And then they got a little bigger, they got a little heavier, they got a little more luxurious, they got a little soft. Then they went really hard, then they went back to soft. And like you said, the last one, steering wasn't there and they made modifications.
What about this one?
This one has great steering, I think. Really good steering feel, which the other one I lost. It's enjoyable to drive. There's nice performance. It's got all the BMW feel, the nice interior, but it's definitely not on the luxury side. Maybe it's getting a little bit back to the ultimate driving machine world.
Right.
But there's still issues that I have with it.
Okay, well, do you want to tell us some of those, or are you going to keep it to yourself?
I was going to see if it's how
see
Jake
if it-
want to be.
Okay.
I think the ride is overly stiff.
Okay.
And for all the people out there who are going to be like, well, you got to have a stiff ride for a handling car. You don't.
No.
It's not this isn't a race car.
Right.
Stiff ride doesn't mean great handling.
Right.
I think it's borderline stiff. Look, it's winter. There's a lot of frost heaves, where the road kind of lifts up. But, I drove it for a weekend and just feel every imperfection kind of translate.
I agree with you. It has a firmness, a tenseness to it that I'm not sure needs to be there. BMW was long known for this fantastic compromise between ride and handling, because it's always a compromise between ride and handling. But I will say, driving this car, even on a relatively smooth highway, you do notice some bumps. And in a lot of cars, you don't notice a bump.
Exactly.
And so...
it's a little biased to one side.
Yeah, but I will say that I'm kind of really looking forward to taking this car out on our track. I have a feeling it's going to be fantastic on the track.
Yeah.
But Jake, we heard from John. Let's hear from you. What are your first impressions of this 330i?
Car makes me sad.
Why? Don't be sad.
I'll be okay. Look, I mean, as John said, I mean, this was maybe the poster child of what is a compact sports sedan. It's always been the 3 Series, and before that, it's been that for a long time. And what we're seeing is kind of with each generation and update, like either they get the steering a little bit wrong, and then they make the ride a little too firm. And I agree with you. I mean, we haven't finished testing it, but it is pretty firm.
Right.
And in this day and age, why do you have to make it a little bit jittery in order to get that steering feel?
That's the thing.
You
It's
shouldn't
not
have
like,
to.
oh, I have back problems and I want a soft car. Like, no, there could be a better balance for a company that's so established.
Exactly. So yes, we'll take it on the track. And you know what? Most people are not going to be taking this car on the track. Most people are going to be driving around the car just normally, and they should be able to get a nice ride and nice steering out of it. But and the reason it makes me sad is because I feel that the push for all these types of vehicles is now in the in-car electronics.
Yeah.
Like that's where the changes are. We're not really getting anywhere.
Are we going to talk about about the infotainment system?
Oh, in fact,
Is that where we're going?
I can't get Apple CarPlay to work with regularity.
But it's wireless, but it's like that seems like where the industry is going. It used to be you'd get these new cars coming out, and I've been here 20 years testing cars, and everyone's like, oh my God, look at the ride and the handling, and it's getting better, and all these changes. And now we're getting to the point where like, oh, now we have wireless CarPlay, now we have gesture controls, and now we have a key fob that does these tricks, and now we have all these other things.
So you're saying they're focusing less on the driving and more on the technical
It's the ultimate
gee whiz stuff?
Ultimate gee whiz machine, yeah. No,
Well, and you miss the fact like it's got a pretty good transmission and it makes a
that's
really good
what I
sound.
wanted to back up
and,
to.
you know,
right?
it's all overloaded.
We need to talk about those things, but so our car has a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and I gotta say, I think it works fantastic. That combo works fantastic. We talk a lot about cars that have, especially with turbos, have a little hesitation off the line. I noticed no hesitation off the line. I think the transmission is very smooth. It's very smart. It's responsive.
Agree with everything you're saying.
Except?
Also true about the last generation.
True. Well, except this one I think sounds a little better. I didn't think the last 330 sounded that great. So especially when you turn it to sport mode, this thing sounds really good. Except I think they're cheating. I think it's. I think
electronics you're
it doesn't
bringing
sound
out.
like it comes from the exhaust. Though it sounds like it's piped in, and we know BMW has done that. I don't.
What do they do? Record the exhaust of a M5 and then load it into the
A 20-year-old BMW.
The
they
point
record.
is, the drivetrain works fantastically.
It does.
So far, at least that's what we think so far. We're going to find out what it really happened in testing. But is there more infotainment you wanted to focus on, or more electronics that bother you? I mean, it's got this new key card, sort of like the Tesla Model 3.
Well, what's interesting? It's kind of like, Tesla Model 3. It's almost so Tesla Model 3, is kind of in that category of like a compact, but doing it a different way.
Right.
But now we see BMW kind of copying some of those things. So ours came with this key card, which you could swipe if you wanted to, and you swipe in a certain place, and you don't have to use your fob.
Right.
It's this little credit card.
But it still has the fob if you want.
It still has the fob, which is fortunate. But I mean, there's a lot of things like that. Also, in the way you now lock the car and unlock the car, you could do it completely hands-free. It'll lock when you walk away. It unlocks when you get in. I mean, it does a lot of these, again, electronic conveniences where it's a little bit copying. And in fact, it also has automation stuff, right? Where it sits there and does the steering for you.
Oh, you mean when you're going down the highway, it's like steering assist, basically.
The steering, right, exactly. So, I mean, again, it just seems like a lot of the concentration in this market now is not going to, let's try to figure out how to get the ride and the handling right together. It's going into, let's see what kind of gimmicks and convenience features and electronics we can do. And even when it comes to the sound, it's that button that who knows what it's doing.
Is it guessing for a generation like, well, to appeal to a new generation, we have to make it gee whiz? Or are they, at that point, are they sending people into the used market to find a two-generation old 3 Series?
It sort of seems like, this is why manufacturers are doing a lot of these, like really high-end technical, infotainment systems with these big screens. I think it's for showroom appeal. I think for people to get in the car and like, oh my gosh, it has all these buttons and it has this huge screen and has an instrument panel that can change as well. You can reconfigure that.
Well, also, I think part of it is like, okay, so you spent $53,000 on a car that's basically the size of a Volkswagen Jetta.
Right.
What does it do? And you're like, well, it does this and it does that, and I say, hey, BMW, and it answers me. So I mean, it's like those gimmicks that could show that.
Right. Yeah, that's what it costs. Our car costs $52,995. That's with some options that we felt we should have to test out.
Yeah.
And so
20% above the base price.
Yeah, it's a pretty expensive car, but this is just our first impressions. I want to say I really do like the way it drives, other than the slightly stiff ride, and I think we'll have a lot more discussion about this in the future as we get through the testing. So now we're going to move on to our next segment, which is audience questions, and we want to remind you, send your questions, comments, 30-second video clips to talkingcars@icloud.com. We love hearing from you, and we actually have a few more. We already showed one video clip. We're going to show a couple more. So this first one has to do with Jaguar XJL and recalls. So Toli, let's go to the videotape.
Talking cars. I have a Jaguar XJL, beautiful car, 32,000 miles. Very unreliable, as noted in your ratings. My water pump just gave up. So my question is, what triggers a recall? Why they don't have a recall on a car like this, where in all the forums, it's common for water pumps to go out. In this case, there's no recall, but it's a common issue of water pumps going bad, high failure rate. Thank you so much. Love the show. Bye.
We're going to start, John, with you, because basically what Maximo wants to know is what's involved, with a car having a recall. And I know we deal with recalls on an almost daily basis on consumerreports.org.
Because there almost are recalls issued on a daily basis, if not more.
So basically, what prompts or triggers a recall?
Sure. Well, in this case, it's not a problem with a part like this. It's key safety issues.
Right.
So the manufacturer may find an issue that's safety related. The government, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, may find that from complaints. They would do an investigation. And again, it's a safety issue. If it's going to cause harm to people, they would then issue a recall. And then there's a back and forth with what the plan is and how they're going to rectify it, the manufacturer. And then they send out notices, and then the consumer owner would make an appointment to bring their car in. So it's a lengthy thing, but it's not the water pump, if it's not causing the cars to immediately stop on the highway or the road.
Or catch on fire.
Yeah, it's not a safety issue, it's not a recall.
Right.
Could be a service action.
Right, I was going to say, Jake, is there some recourse for Maximo? I mean, he says the car only has 32,000 miles. He also says he's been looking at the forums. He says that this has a high failure rate for water pumps, this XJ. Is there some recourse for him?
Unfortunately, if it's out of warranty, you're not. I mean, the takeaway here is, shameless plug. You look at our reliability information. This is a common issue. Water pumps is a problem with these Jaguars, and this is part of the reason why we say it's below average reliability, and we say look elsewhere. But as John says, if it's not going to cause a fire or some kind of safety issue, unfortunately, this is just a unreliable vehicle.
Yeah, and unfortunately also, it's not just the Jaguar XJ. It's kind of the Jaguar brand overall. A lot of their cars have below average reliability, again, according to, our survey data.
I would say one of the things is, and we just talked about BMW and who it's appealing to, a very technically savvy generation. Okay, well, so use technology in this case. Get a lot of people to tweet out to Jaguar. You make a public case. Share this, this discussion. Put the onus on the manufacturer as much as you can.
Right.
Because if this is an epidemic, so to speak, amongst these cars, then use whatever method you have for recourse.
Yeah.
It's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
That's not official. It's not like, this is, what Consumer Reports says, but you have an airline seat issue or delay, you tweet to them, and all of a sudden you find that you have a new seat on the next flight. Well, try it.
Right. Okay, so we have another video question. This one I titled Dodge Charger Reliability. What gives, CR? So let's play that real quick.
Hey, Talking Cars, love the show. Watch it as soon as it comes out. I have a question about muscle cars and the Dodge Charger in specific. So in November of 2018, when I saw that the Charger had increased in reliability to a 4 out of 5 on your website, I thought, yes, I can get this now. But most recently, I looked again here, and it's actually fallen from a 4 out of 5 to a 1 out of 5. I think it's the 2017 is your most recent data. So can you help me understand what happened?
All right, so Jake, you're kind of known as old reliable around here. No, because you're so involved in the reliability
Well
data.
above average.
So Jeff wants to know, he's trying to understand, why would the Dodge Charger go from, being above average reliability, in 2018 to suddenly, now it's below average reliability in 2019. So, he's looking to get back into the muscle car segment, but he's not feeling great about his, he's wondering what led to this demise of the Charger.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking about Tesla be changing all the time. The truth is that a lot of cars change over time too. It may be kind of something that you don't even see. Sometimes they're changing suppliers, sometimes they're changing equipment. That happens. In particular, when we looked into the Charger, we saw more issues along with the heating and cooling system. We saw issues with the in-car electronics, some more problems there. We saw more issues with some of the interior trim having problems. But there was problems kind of across the board and a bunch of different problems that kind of dropped it below. And with FCA, Fiat Chrysler vehicles, we often see kind of them kind of hovering in the average range or going below. And we actually contacted Chrysler on this and talked to them about them. And about these issues. And what's interesting, and they came back to us.
Do you want me to read that? I can read this.
Oh, you could acknowledge.
Yeah,
sure.
so
Look, you're prepared.
Yeah, we sent them this, told them what our members had told us. And they said the quality and reliability of our vehicles is of the utmost importance to all of us here at FCA, which is Fiat Chrysler Automobiles US. We address all issues we see in our quality indicators, and the issues referenced had been identified and resolved. The 2019 Dodge Charger represents the best iteration of the vehicle ever. It goes on, but the bottom line is they say, with the improvements we've made, we're confident the Charger will regain its recommended status in the future.
So this is very interesting because we were having this conversation about Tesla just earlier, and it's very similar. So they acknowledged the problems. They said, yes, we had those problems, but
and
we
the
fixed
Chrysler
them.
300 too had some similar problems.
Right, that's right.
So not just the Charger.
Yeah,
But-
it's the same platform.
So they weren't surprised by these problems. They acknowledged the problems that the vehicle had, but again are saying, much like Tesla said before, hey, we fixed all these problems, but again, we're going to have to see. We're going to have to get more data. We'll be reporting reliability data again in the fall, and if they've fixed these problems, we'll be happy to recommend the car again, but we got to see.
Yeah, what's interesting about it is sort of like Tesla. The Charger's owner satisfaction is a 5 out of 5. So it's very high. It's
really
as
high.
high as it can be. And it's just interesting that your car can be unreliable, but you still love the car.
Look at Corvettes.
Yeah.
Jeep Wranglers.
Jeep Wranglers. Not always top reliability, but people love them.
Right. Also, we want to say, guys and girls, you don't have to put our podcast in the background like Jeff did, but it doesn't hurt to get on the show that way. So,
But just with us on it.
this wasn't with us.
I do have to say one thing. I always love when a manufacturer says that their car is the best version ever.
Yeah.
Because I would hope that the most up-to-date version would be the best version ever. And they're like, well...
Sadly, they aren't always.
The 2006 was far better.
I don't know if BMW is saying it about
Oh,
the 3
boy.
Series.
Oh, boy. All right, we're going to move on to our last question. This is from Alex, and I titled this one, Alex and Apparent CR Contradictions. I don't know why I'm suddenly titling these questions, but that's what I decided to do.
You're right. It's ahead. We need some
Yeah.
decks. Yeah.
Okay, so Alex says, hi CR, love the show. In the podcast, you sometimes praise cars for fun to drivability and sportiness, and other times praise trunk space and roomy cabins. At times, you complain that some SUVs are vague to drive, and some sporty cars have less trunk and legroom. Is it a contradiction? Shouldn't every segment serve its purpose? I often notice that practicality dilutes driving characteristics. Thank you. So, John, I'm going to throw this to you first. Does Alex have a valid point? Is he missing part of the point of how we test, rate, and write about the cars?
Look, it's not a situation of like, well, this is a sports car, so throw everything else out. There's different aspects to look at. I mean, I would like to have a sporty SUV. It's not wallowy. I want to make sure I have cargo room as well. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
But we also, and Jake has a much better explanation of it. But it's also not that a small trunk is going to knock this car all the way to the ground versus fuel economy.
We have very different weighting schemes when it comes to an SUV and a sports car, for instance.
Right.
So while we do want to let you know what you're getting into, and we want to lay the facts out, and if there's no trunk in a sports car, or if an SUV, drives terribly, we're going to let you know. However, when we weigh those things in terms of scoring the vehicles, totally different.
Right.
If you have a small trunk, if you have a stiff ride on a sports car or no rear seat or very little rear seat, it's really not going to hurt the score nearly as much as if you were in an SUV. So we weigh these things appropriately. So yeah.
Well, and some of it's buying considerations. I mean, we have our the Genesis 4-door that we just tested, the G70.
G70.
The vehicle is tiny in the rear seat. It's smaller than competitors like the 3 Series.
I'm up
we
front.
Just got.
I don't care. I love driving that
and you're
car.
kind of short, so it's not an issue for the rear
Hurtful.
seat. Yeah, but true. But putting 3 or 4 adults in the back of that and a couple bags in the trunk, there is not that much room. So know that going into it. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden it's going to score a 20.
Right. I think that's
Be aware.
That's the important thing. If we're complaining about the trunk in a Toyota 86 or a Mazda Miata, it's more saying just be aware for someone who hasn't bought this car or this type of car before that there are some compromises you have to make for a sports car. It's a car like the Corvette, which actually has a pretty big trunk. It's going to do a little better than its competitors in terms of its score for trunk. Same with the Dodge Challenger, which among muscle cars actually has a gigantic trunk. I've stuffed a bicycle in there. But also, like you said, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. You know, there's the Mazda CX-5. This is an SUV that is practical, yet it's actually pretty fun to drive. And
it makes it a better SUV.
Yeah. Right, and then there's a Subaru Ascent. Okay, it has pretty vague steering. So we might say, well, you know, look at something like a Mazda CX-9 or a Ford Edge or a Hyundai Santa Fe, midsize SUVs that are also practical, yet have that better steering.
Or just no. You know, I mean, when we got ours, I took it to put miles on one day, and you know, it's huge. Our Subaru Ascent. You know, I threw my bicycle in the back, and I'm driving down to a group ride, and went around a group bike ride. Excuse me. Yeah. You know, I'm going around a turn, and it was surprising the way the steering was vague, and you know, kind of felt a little bit of lean on it.
But again, you know, how as we weigh these things, you know, you look at the Ascent, it's really roomy, and you chose it to put your bike in because it's really roomy. The ride is incredible on the vehicle.
Certainly.
So the fact that the steering really isn't sports car steering doesn't really hurt it that much, and it's still a good choice.
And it goes back to the whole. That's why we tell you this. Be aware of it so that you don't get it and think, oh, it's just like my Mazda CX-9 that I replaced.
If
all of a sudden it leaves.
If you're buying a midsize SUV and you're really looking for something pretty sharp, maybe the Subaru Ascent isn't the best choice for you. But if you're just looking for a really good everyday vehicle with lots of room and a great ride, nice engine, you know, then something like that is good. But the point is, look at the different facets, you know, but these things don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can have a sportier SUV. Sure. You can have a sports car. Also with a pretty good trunk, you know, so they are out there, and we have all those numbers for you, so you just have to check it out. That's going to do it for this episode. If you want to learn more about the cars and the topics we talked about, you can click on the links in the show notes. Don't forget, send those questions, comments, 30-second video clips to talkingcars@icloud.com. For these two awesome guys, we want to say thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next week. We have another video question. This one I titled Dodge Charger. Sorry, let me start that over when I don't say Darge.